Hey everyone, welcome to the Wandering DMs channel. I'm Paul.
And I'm Dan, and we are currently wandering at TotalCon in Marlborough, Massachusetts on the last day, and this is our wrap-up session before we head home.
Usually we do this at 1. Obviously, the con has sort of bumped up our schedule a little bit. Sorry, folks who normally come in. But this will be our long, I think, final discussions about TotalCon for the trip.
And we're currently not looking at the comments, so just in case anyone gets to the comments, we're actually not seeing that here. Give me a letter grade, A through F, on the TotalCon. The total of TotalCon.
This TotalCon, even in comparison to other TotalCons I've been to, I would give an A+.
Great. I would also give it an A. This is great. This is my first time. I'm glad that I was with Paul so he could show me the ropes. And it's really nice.
Yeah. TotalCon for me, really like the most. The thing about it that really stands out to me is this feeling of hominess.
Yeah.
Right. I saw some stats on Facebook. I think TotalCon gets about 1,300 unique badge sales, about 3,000 I think unique visitors, or no, sorry, 30,000 turnstile for the general size. But I feel like you just now, as we're trying to leave the convention, just constantly stopped on the hall by people saying goodbye, shaking hands, giving hugs. It's great. It feels like gathering of old friends. It's like trying to leave a holiday meal with your extended family.
Yeah, and so obviously this is a little bit closer to where you live, Paul. Mm-hmm. But I think what Paul is saying is more than that. You get out of the house a lot more often than I do to conventions. But we've both been to Gen Con, and we've both been to Gary Con, and I've been to a convention in New Jersey. And they can be so large that they're overwhelming. They can be so large that you're getting lost. You're sometimes in kind of a crowd crush situation. You don't meet the same persons. And here, it's manageable. It's a more intimate size. I never got lost. It's easy to find your way around. And with this, even I now have run into someone 2 or 3 times just this weekend, and now I feel like I have new acquaintances at least.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely something attractive to that. There's almost a draw and or excitement to that of the big cons of like just the spectacle of it is amazing. Yeah, but here, really hanging out with old friends, playing games, meeting new friends, exchanging ideas. We spend. We play 2 or 3 games during the day, and then even as the last game rolls up at 11 o'clock, and then you hang out at the bar or at someone's hotel room and chat well late into the night. Really, for me, TotalCon is a bit of an exercise in sleep deprivation, because staying up into the wee hours and then still trying to drag myself out of bed for a game in the morning.
I have a history of insomnia, so in some sense I possibly slept better. Being tired in the day, I possibly sleep better.
So as for the gaming, what were your highlights?
Okay, so it's interesting. So a lot of great stuff, and interesting. I think that stuff got better for me as the weekend went on. Actually, so I think that my single favorite thing was today, on Sunday, and other than that, Saturday was my best day. So things were getting better.
Awesome.
In prior videos, we never debriefed on. I played a game with a gentleman named Mike Curtis, who has his name on lots and lots of DCC adventures.
Yep. Also the author of Stonehell, the mega dungeon in the one-page dungeon format.
Great. So very experienced, and he was other than yourself, was probably the standout DM of the weekend for me. I would give him an A. He had the whole ball game. And we were playing DCC rules with a very experimental kind of Flash Gordon-y theme thing that he had all of 2 pages of handwritten notes for. It's not a game that DCC has published or is planning on publishing, but something that he wanted to screw around with a bit.
I've played with Michael on a number of occasions. We bump into each other in the halls and say hi. And I do feel like he a bit treats some of these conventions sometimes like his personal experimental lab, and you are his guinea pigs.
Yes.
Which is delightful, even for the guinea pigs.
Yeah. And I'll throw out 2 bullet points that as I've been thinking about this all weekend. He's got when I said that he's got the whole bag, he has system mastery. When he comes to the table and he says, "I'm running with DCC rules," he knows what that means. And so the numbers on your character sheet, if you spend time studying them, that's actually what's going to happen in the game, and I appreciate and respect that. He never looked in a book. right? He never had to
I
go
can't
flipping
do
through a
that,
book.
jeez.
Okay, I think one single time I know he had to look up something on his DM screen, and other than that, he never looked down at any rules.
That's impressive.
Right. So it's fast paced. The flow is great. He's being honest with the rules. And he knows enough that he can be flexible and also improvise rules. Secondly, he has total ownership of the story. He also never had to look down at his notes for the adventure. And so he's clearly improvising stuff. He has wonderful sense descriptions. He's doing a bunch of different voices, and he's clearly improvising and owns the story as well. So it's super fast, super well paced, super fun to be there, and just like a super session.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So we haven't talked about our game this morning. Do you want to talk a little bit about?
Yeah, that's the one we just came from. So I'm a little hot from that.
So I run traditionally at TotalCon a morning session from 10 to noon because, as I said, TotalCon for me is an exercise in sleep deprivation. So I'm trying to get up not for the 8 a.m. games. I can't do it. So I wanted to play a morning game, so I tried to figure out how can I run a D&D game in that 10 to noon small window. And I came up with this thing that I call Boss Fight for Breakfast. In Boss Fight for Breakfast, it's basically one big encounter. So 2 hours, one big encounter, a table of maybe 8 players playing OD&D. Maybe there's a room or two to explore. But
with miniatures, and you're going to have a map. And
I use a battle mat. I use miniatures, which is not a thing I usually do, but I think it helps keep people focused in the action. Oftentimes, it's just immediately into rounds of combat, and it's way more complicated than a combat I would ever put into a campaign game. I think. Usually, just a lot going on, and I just try to give that great experience. And because we're at a convention and everybody knows I kind of have burner characters, like I really bring the heat and I try to like kill players, and I think they appreciate it. I try to bring that extra difficulty level to really challenge them, make them feel great.
And people that have played in it have raved about it. I've heard about that before. It sounds like a great way to kind of ramp down the convention on Sunday right before noontime. And people are probably tired, and maybe they've had a couple drinks the night before, so they can come in at 10, and it's a brilliant scheduling choice.
So this year, what we did was, because I knew Dan was going to be here with me, I plucked the flame encounter from the I can't remember the name of the module, but it's the adventure in the first issue of Dungeon Magazine. And Dan got to play Flame, the ancient red dragon, and the players fought him, and he did his very best to try and kill them.
I did, how well do you think I did?
I think you did pretty well. I think you effectively you killed one player, neutralized a second. But they did eventually.
I did hit the entire party with 2 flame breaths. So I did my best. I did get them bunkered down in a tunnel and managed to hit both of them with 2 full flame breaths.
I mean, if I was playing very hardcore OD&D where 0 hit points is death, without that extra layer of saving at the end, it would have been TPK.
Which I thought I had done twice.
Did you forget that I used that?
I did. I did forget that Paul uses these critical rules to save you from death. Because I hit them with 2 88-point breaths twice, and I was a little surprised when they weren't down.
So I mean, there was some collapsed lungs. Somebody lost an arm. It was brutal. It was not good for the players, but they did manage to survive it by and large.
And I feel like I was doing a pretty good job of head fakes with a bunch of spells that I had for illusions and hallucinatory terrain and
that
mirror
actually
image.
that was the one player death we had, right? Is that a player ran into a 30-foot deep chasm, not realizing that it had been illusion to look like plain floor, and fell to his death.
And I had illusions on top of illusions, right? And I did manage to trick them into like, don't hit me with this, and don't hit me with this. It's the only thing that hurt me, and I was immune to that, right? So I actually did snooker them into a round of like wasted stuff against something I was immune about.
For sure.
So I think I was playing pretty good chaotic character.
I think so.
I was worried about it to begin with, that I was going to screw up with one big monster, but I'm pretty happy.
We had some really good players, honestly. There was some good tactics going on there. They were very careful in their approach, trying to suss out the traps before they got to being
I was really So one of the characters had a sword of detect traps, and I was like, what? Oh, this isn't good.
Which is a limited range, but they were therefore they were like slowly inching their way in and using the sword and trying to suss out the traps, which is great, really good for them. Some very clever spell use. I really enjoyed, although it failed, ultimately I really enjoyed the attempt to charm person, the lizard man manning the lever for the trap.
Yeah.
That was pretty clever.
Yeah, I had to roll that was a really clever thing, and really there's no reason I should have made that save. But I rolled an 18, which I needed, so it didn't work. But that was really clever. Yeah, I was worried because I was like, oh, we had 8 players at the table. We had a whole bunch of players with what level characters were there?
They were roughly 7 to 9. 7 to 9. So on average, 8th level.
Yeah, with magic wands and intelligent swords and stuff like that. And when they started playing, I'm like, oh, they are good.
Yeah,
they are good. This is not what I wanted.
They brought the heat, or the cold, should I say?
They did. I got hit by cold spell after cold spell after cold spell.
Right, which is pretty funny. But I guess it makes sense. They saw a red dragon. They said, let's bring out the cold spells. Which was great.
Yeah, they played very well.
Also, I gave them a lot of stuff because I knew that what they were facing, and that's the clever bit, I think, is that Dan didn't get to see the character sheets. He had no idea what was coming in after him. And
I asked.
Yeah. No.
I asked.
Flame didn't know what was coming.
Yeah.
He knew people were coming, but he didn't know what they might have.
Yeah.
And so they did have various things. Like I know that you thought that flight was going to be a big deal, and I thought flight was going to be a big deal.
Yeah, I did.
So I had a character with a potion of flying. I had a character with a broom of flying. I had a character with a flying carpet.
Yeah.
And wizards who could cast fly. There was plenty of fly to go around with that group.
Yeah. It's really interesting because the one thing that was happening is they were coming in very slowly.
Yeah.
And I hadn't really thought about that, but it makes sense. I was kind of expecting a little bit more. Somebody was going to speed in.
I was expecting that too. I thought 2 hours. Rush in and kick the door down.
Right.
I thought they would do that.
Or like invisible flying thief leads the way, and then we're in.
Yep.
Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, I guess I was surprised that there was no advanced, invisible, undetectable
Right,
spell.
and so there was a couple rounds there where I could play a spell, and I feel like if someone was paying attention, it would ramp up tension. So I was trying to make it kind of obvious that I was playing a spell to kind of make it more tense for them.
That's awesome.
But they stuck together.
Yeah.
And then instead of springing the trap, it was just like, how much better is this going to be than the party just clumped up in a tunnel where I can just fire on them as the first thing.
That's great.
So it's kind of interesting to see that progression of strategies changing when they didn't do what I was initially expecting them to do. Yeah, I've done that a couple times.
Sorry, viewers, if we keep shaking the camera. That's us kicking this table. Great, awesome.
That was great. I'm so glad you prepared that.
Yeah, that was fun.
You ran it wonderfully. I did lose in the last 10 minutes.
Yep. Good blast of a wand of paralyzation. Although I think they kind of had you at that point. You were down to 15 health.
I was gonna escape.
You think you were gonna escape?
If it had come back to me, I was gonna fly.
Oh, you were gonna fly into the next cave over and then
I was
have a merry chase.
My minions will finish you off.
Excellent. Excellent. Wow.
I will meet you next year, the next boss fight. So I was 3 player. I think I was 4 away from getting out.
Good placement on the wand. And it was lucky, I think, that the wand user was an elf and able, because there was a little light issue going on there.
Good.
And so that the wand user had to be able to see in the dark.
Good point. Good point. Yeah.
So good stuff. Yeah.
That was great. It was a great session, and I think people were entertained by that.
Awesome.
What was a highlight apart from that for you this weekend?
The thing that really sticks out in my head was my second run of my Cthulhu game, which was my sort of private game for some players that I know who I met. Again, this speaks to this sort of weird social aspect of TotalCon, where year after year I would run this game and the same players would show up at my table, and this year they weren't able to get tickets to my game, so they contacted me out of band and said, hey, will you just run a game for us? And so we got TotalCon has some space of just like open tables if you want to just use them. So we got together and we played this game, and they're amazing players. They're really great. They really dig into the background of the characters. They love to play the characters against each other, which is awesome. And it was just super, super satisfying. They really appreciated all the props. They were very clever in their play. They're sort of the kind of thoughtful player who I think I don't have to worry about if this character has no motivation to stay, they're just going to get in the car and drive off, and there's still 2 hours of the game left, and now that player's out. Right? That's sometimes a concern in Cthulhu. If there's no logical reason for me to stay, I should just leave. Yeah, but it's your job as a player to invent a reason to stay. Right, and definitely those players are going to do that. I'm going to find a reason to be here. So I really like that. So that just jumps out at me as just a super fun game. I'll be running a game there at HelgaCon, so maybe HelgaCon. You're probably going to be running stuff yourself, so maybe you won't get to play. But maybe we'll talk about it anyway post HelgaCon, and I'll have more thoughts.
Surely. I don't play in a lot of horror games, but the game that you ran that I was in 1 year ago.
Yeah, the Mazes and Monsters game.
Was one of the most amazing things I'd ever been in.
That
It
was
was like when I think about really top level, possibly like a little thing in your life that's going to stick with you. For that Paul running a Cthulhu game is the thing that pops into my head actually.
I definitely have a terrible addiction to props, so I end up bringing boxes of stuff with me, which is silly, but I love it. I don't know. I guess we were talking about the other night about both having sort of a background in our youth in theater, and so I think that has brought me this like I want a physical thing so I can do some business and I can and
you bring the right amount. You bring the right amount because I've also seen someone have like just dozens of things, but you bring 1 or 2 things per player. Right?
Correct.
And
correct.
it really just there's just a little taste of here's what's about the characters about.
I actually might as well dig into this a little bit. I'm sure I'll be posting more details about this on my blog, so please come visit my blog if you want to hear more about this. I know it's a little out of left field for wandering DMs, but what I do is when I do character selection, I pre-make 10 conventions, which is
place cards they call
place
them
cards.
weddings, right?
Sure, there you go. Which just has the name of the character. So I pre-make those. It has the name of the character, maybe a quotation in the voice of the character, and a physical prop. I have each of those for each of my player characters, and that's all the information they get to choose their character from.
Yeah.
So based on the prop and the quote and the name, they have to pick. And it's super fun. Everybody loves that. Like you see in the Mazes and Monsters game, I have the concerned parent who's got. I'm trying to remember her name, but she's very much sort of a Fran Drescher type character. And I bring up the giant can of aqua spray, hairspray. And just everybody like really sees it. And they're like, I gotta have that.
Right.
That's hilarious.
Right. And and again, hairspray. What good is that? I mean, obviously that's just like a funny thing, but later on, turn into a flamethrower.
Yeah. Pretty much every group eventually turns that thing into a flamethrower.
Okay. Great. And that's a great. That is a great way to get into the game of just really minimal information. And in fact, we just now, you're running D&D with higher level characters, and at least one or 2 players did get delayed with a stack of papers.
It's tough.
And not everybody wants to do this, but some people like to be comprehensive and really want to fully parse all the information, all the spells, and all the abilities. And at least 1 or 2 players did get kind of delayed getting started with the game.
So do you think that's a thing that should be applied to OD&D of a limited information character selection?
I probably wouldn't do that, but it's it's an option.
I mean, ideally, usually even then, like you typically in a con, I wouldn't bring such high level characters. First of all, if I were, I would pitch the game as that, and I would clearly say in the game description, this is a high-level game, so you should have some background and be ready for like a difficult game. And that'll filter the types of players that show up. But then the other thing is like you should play with slightly lower level characters, and then also you have 4 hours instead of 2, maybe have a little more time for players to play through the character sheets.
Yes. And so with the 2-hour session, you're totally right. It's like we're all going around the table, and it's a great way to get started. And that worked very nicely. And I guess I should point out. So you're telling what your Cthulhu game you were doing off the convention schedule with the players that who asked you because. The games that you put up, they have silver badges here that have early registration?
They have, I think, what they call early access badge.
Okay.
So they sell a limited number of these badges, and those players get to pick their games first.
Right.
Which means some games, including that game, get sold out prior to even
So your games all get filled up. The early access thing.
I mean, yes, that happened to me, and this is the first year they've done early access. So
Gotcha.
Yes.
Gotcha. And then your normal players got in touch and said, "Can we do something off book so we're still together?" Great. Wonderful.
Yep.
Yeah.
And several of them actually came to my OD&D game on Thursday. In fact, it was one of them who, as I spoke about in an earlier cast, sacrificed himself to become the pupil of a vile lich so his friends could escape. So
that's classic. That's epic. Yeah, that's epic. Great.
So yeah, I mean, honestly, so that stands out as a highlight to me. Obviously, I really enjoyed playing with you and having this flame. Although, actually, also the DCC game, I cannot deny the appeal of laughing so hard that I'm literally tears are streaming down my face. The funny thing is, I can't even now. I remember 1 or 2 of the jokes, but I don't know it was so damn.
I was
funny.
thinking about it I was thinking about it later on. Is that I made it because I made it intentionally creepy as we were trying to save the daughter, right? And so
yes.
I had a spell that could rope somebody up. So I roped her up to pull her out of the group she was with, and then I intentionally made it, got a little, made it a little creepy. Was like, yes, come here, little girl, and everybody's like, oh, this is going, oh, this might not be good. And then I also played it like I was surprised that that women had names.
That's right.
Because everybody's referring to it as the woman, right?
Their name, right? Oh,
right. So I kind of lampshaded it with like the unnamed female human being,
and then everybody was like, "Oh, you must be some strange foreigner. Where are you from?" And you're like, "Oh, right here.
I'm native like Martin." Oh, the women have names now. Oh, we're very modern. I see. You don't want a whole heck out. You can go. That can become bad, but it worked. It worked at the table.
It worked.
Yeah.
It worked. As long as it's clear, I think, to the table that you're clearly making fun of that.
Right. Yeah. This is obviously someone who's not right in the head.
Right. Oh goodness. Oh goodness. Oh goodness. Yeah. Between that, I think, and the weird rivalry I had with the other wizard, it was just, I was just losing.
That was good.
That's great. So yeah, really, I mean, no duds, I would say, which is unusual for me at a convention. 0 duds. I don't think there's any game that I played in where I was like, I could have skipped that game.
Okay. I had better ones and I had worse ones, and the week was better for me all the time.
Yeah.
I had both better DMs and better players at the sessions over the time. I really enjoyed playing Ogre. I mean, I haven't played the board game in a while, and boy, it's smooth, it's snappy. That kind of got me into the convention.
We haven't really talked about the Car Wars game we played in.
Good point. Yes.
Yeah. So last night, when I played Car Wars, runs from 7 to 11. Also showing trying to get myself killed by 10 p.m. And I actually got myself killed by 9.
Right.
So I could, and then the funny thing is, there are other
head on with your friend Laura there.
Yeah. Well, that's the funny thing is that she's also there for similar reasons.
Right.
So there's some of us that are just there with a death wish and just one carnage.
Right.
And it's great. And it's a massive table. I'll have to post one of the pictures we took. Massive table of cars racing around. Yeah. Connected by a bridge, which you can jump. It's just a gorgeous thing. They run it every year, and it's super fun. I highly recommend you come check it out. They always have room for. I'm always shocked how many people they take in. If anything, it was a little smaller this year than I've seen in the past. So, so I encourage everybody to go check that out. I think it's usually called something like the New England Regional Championship Car Wars game, which is a really ridiculous hoity-toity name for what it really is, which is just a bunch of crazy people trying to blow each other up.
Yeah. And that was my first time in that, and I was there as well. And again, like, makes sense if it's a bunch of carnage, we'll probably die and then go to this other event. And then they pointed out that there was a plaque for the winner, and Dan's competitive, and like, oh, okay, now I'm trying to win. So I was actually trying to avoid crashes, and I was just blowing up people with my gun, and so at least 2 or 3 people around me got blown up, and I went over oil, and I rolled the car.
That's right.
And I think I was one of the only people that had damage to my top side, and got back on and was going again, but then actually did have to duck out early because we both went to Rocky Horror.
Do you want to talk about Rocky Horror?
Yep.
Excellent. Just for a little background, folks, I've been going to Rocky Horror Picture Show since I was a teenager. I have been there dozens of times. I know a lot of the callbacks. I love going. I go every year. That's a big thing for me. TotalCon is now the only time I get to go. I would love to find a situation where I could get some friends together and go to like a proper theater. TotalCon is a little weird because it's in a smaller boardroom and it's a projector and it's not a big screen. But RKO Army does a great job.
They do.
They do this whole Shadowcast thing. It's wonderful. There you go. There's my background.
Okay. So and I'm the opposite. I had previously seen 5 minutes of Rocky Horror on television, which I am counting as my first viewing officially. So Paul, how many times had I seen it before last night?
You claimed 1.
Yes.
Yes.
And what's the other question?
Are you a virgin?
No. What did you ask me when I about?
Oh, so yes. So I do this actually for most folks I introduce to Rocky Horror. I'm probably a lot of Rocky Horror fans will call me a spoil sport for this one, but I actually like to ask, like, do you want me to out you as a virgin?
Yeah.
Because there is some amount of hazing that happens And so I asked, like, do you want me to call that out or keep it on the DL?
Yeah, and I appreciate it. See, I think that's sometimes with like major costuming events or theatricality type stuff, sometimes I can possibly be uncomfortable in the past with that. So I think that it's really good to get buy-in like that. I really appreciate that. So I did not tell me what was going to happen.
True.
But I was aware that there was something the first time that was kind of important. So I was aware of that, and I was officially counting the 5 minutes as my first viewing. So that was last night was 1.08.
So what did you think of the experience?
Okay.
What did you think of the
super intense? I'm glad it's in the world. I'm glad it's in the world. It's a lot to process. It's very intense for maybe someone like me. I'm so glad I saw it. I'm a little jealous I didn't see it at a younger age. I'm a little jealous I didn't have a group of friends who would be into that. Clearly, everybody's having a really great time. The shadow casters, as you call them, I was impressed by, particularly the lead. I thought the lead playing Frank was really had it.
Yep.
It's a really intense thing, and it is, you know. Some people will say it's not a good movie, but I actually...
I would say that. I think it's a terrible movie, but I love the experience of going.
I think that it fully took up its own existence. I think that everything that wanted to be, it completely became, and clearly Tim Curry just completely burned down everything in the universe. And I don't know how anybody is an actor after Tim Curry did that role anymore. And it's really intense. It is actually more sexualized than I expected. I didn't expect. Again, I'm glad that a thing like that's in the world. It's very raunchy. The players are playing that up, which is perfectly great. So it was surprising. Even now there were tinges of discomfort. I think that's a good thing. I'm glad that I can become anxious or worried or tense in the world, and so I think that I'm super glad that you took me to that actually. Awesome. So I'm glad I went, and I will still be thinking about that. I'm glad, and honestly, I'm just a tiny little bit jealous that I didn't have friends that were into that kind of thing at an earlier age.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I think I might come back around. There might be a future vlog or blog where I come back around the other way on that, but that's where I am right now. Everybody is having a great time, and the world needs more of that.
Awesome. Well, it's definitely in my craw again. I think after every TotalCon, it's in my head like, well, next Halloween, that's usually the big one. Next Halloween, I'm gonna do it this time. I'm gonna get a bunch of people and go. So maybe we'll come October, we'll have something to talk about.
Okay.
Great. Okay. So. I've got nothing left, Jan. Do you have any topics?
Not that I can think of right now.
Final thoughts on TotalCon?
Really great. Thank you so much for suggesting that I come on this.
Absolutely.
A wonderful experience. Anybody that can possibly get to Marlboro for this here in February, awesome. Totally manageable. If you're coming up, hit us up. Send us a message or something like that, so that we know that you're here.
Yeah.
Great. Great. Some places specialize in certain things. Right. This does have role playing. It's got miniatures. It's a very nice mix of everything you want at a con for a smaller con.
I believe it also kind of prides itself on being very family friendly. So be aware of that. If you have small kids who like to play games, this is actually a great place to bring them.
Yeah. Not to rock hard though.
No. Don't do that.
And some 40-year-old men.
All right. So if you have any thoughts, please leave them in the comments section. We'll definitely be checking the comment section of this cast. We will be at another convention, my small house convention in April. So that'll be the next time we'll have the chance to do something a little more like this.
Oh, great. Oh, I hadn't thought about that. That's awesome. Oh, man.
Yep. So, and then otherwise, 2 weeks from now, Sunday at 1 should be our usual thing, I hope. I haven't looked at the calendar, so
no, that is correct. So 1 week from today, there should be a new Peru video.
Excellent.
And then 2 weeks from today, there should be a new live cast discussing rules. Maybe we'll have more ideas post-Total about things we could do in the future.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, subscriptions are great, so please subscribe if you haven't done that.